From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast, brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Vaughn Warnke, the hostess with the mostest. So excited to have you guys back on this show, man. I get pumped up every time I turn on this microphone and fire up my phone line to talk to somebody about the great outdoors in Texas and beyond, and it's just such a pleasure to be able to share this medium with you through podcasting. And so thank you guys so much for listening, as always, and thank you for also checking out fishgame.com for giving our podcast a 5-star rating, for telling a friend about the show, and all that other fun stuff, because we love you guys. We love to do new things on this show and have some past guests on as well. And today we're having Rick Ward, the Urban Airgunner from Air Force Airguns, as well as his fame from American Airgunner, the TV show that is on the Pursuit channel on a regular basis. Man, Rick is just a great guy. I've had Rick, I've had Eric Henderson, I've had a couple of other guys from the Air Force realm on the show over the years, and I love air guns, guys, and we'll talk about this in the show. All the benefits and features of where you can shoot air guns, where you can't shoot firearms, how you can have fun plinking in the backyard, up to hunting big game animals with air guns. So this show goes a little longer than my usual, hour to 45 minutes to an hour format. So this is about an hour and a half show that I recorded with Rick. But man, we get to talk about all kinds of other things besides just air guns and hunting, and just outdoor industry stuff, outdoor world things, and things that affect us all, really, that live this thing we call life. And I'm just happy to share this with you guys. We had a blast doing this, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So without further ado, here is my interview with Rick Ward. Here we go. Joining me on the phone, Mr. Rick Ward, the Urban Airgunner. How you doing this evening, Rick?
I am doing absolutely fine, Dustin. Absolutely, man. Every day that you wake up is a blessing.
That's right. And basically what I wanted to do with you is talk about something outside of the state of Texas for once, that basically is reflecting on your love of air guns and my love of air guns, and all the guys in Texas here that love air guns as well, that can appreciate it, and people outside the state as well. But Georgia is allowing air guns for deer season now, correct? For rifle season, correct?
Absolutely, man. And I tell you, it's been a long time coming. I wish that, it's not a single-handed type deal. I mean, I didn't do this all on my own.
Sure.
Man, I started asking a lot of questions and knocking on a lot of doors, and, had to put up with a lot of BS, if you will.
Red tape.
Because, I guess because of my passion and moving so much so hard forward in this deal, that, I finally got a bunch of manufacturers involved, which, the manufacturers have been trying to legalize, or try to get air gun hunting, big game legal in all 50 states.
Sure.
And it's been quite an ordeal, and there's still a long way to go, but more and more states are following suit. And I thought we were going to have it passed last year, and we didn't have any opposition at all last year. And they attached it to it was kind of a last-minute deal, if you will. They attached it to a baiting bill up in North Georgia, and it got shot down. Well, there was nothing that we could do, because we had to have a vehicle to put the bill, attach it to that late in the sessions. But
sure.
Because of the manufacturers and the lobbyists that the manufacturers have got, and the association, they've got a Airgun Sporting Association, the ASA.
Uh-huh.
Mitch King is heading that up, and I'll tell you, the lobbyists that we had up here was it was just great. I went and demoed air guns to lawmakers, and just shot hundreds of rounds and let them shoot hundreds of rounds, and all different types of guns. And finally this year, man, it went through. So
that's great.
We're pretty excited about it.
That's great news. And, the one thing kind of at the last minute last year's season of 2018, it was legalized here in Texas during rifle season, but it was like the end of August. And our fiscal year, I imagine, like a lot of fiscal years, start over in September. and that's when they finally passed it right there at the end, the nitty gritty, if you will, and they made it illegal during. But of course, they have recommendations in Texas for air gun calibers and stuff, and rules and regulations in that regard. But just to be able to have the freedom to hunt with an Air Force Texan or any other big bore air gun out there, is great. And you and I both shoot Air Force stuff, and we also talk about other brands and stuff like that as well. But tell us a little bit about your experience with what you're preparing to do for deer season in Georgia.
Well, our bow season just started last weekend, and it's still hotter than, it's just hot. And
4th of July. It's hotter than the 4th of July.
It really is. So we're getting ready to launch our deer hunting season. Actually, for air guns, gets to start during muzzleloader season or primitive weapon.
Oh, cool.
We tried to get them to let us do it during bow season.
Yeah,
but we took what we could get. So we're starting during muzzleloader, which is on October the 12th.
Oh, cool.
And unfortunately, I'm not going to be the first guy to kill a deer in the state of Georgia with an air rifle because, as you well know, I have a very busy rodeo schedule, and that is winding down, oddly enough, this year because I've got so many filming trips and hunting trips lined up for Air Force that, I just didn't book a lot of rodeos knowing what I was going to be getting into. So anyways, the 12th is going to be our first day to be able to hunt with big bore air rifles. And in the state of Georgia, they passed it. I believe it was a 30 caliber and up, which, I know it's going to make a lot of air gunners mad out there, but I didn't recommend, 30 caliber. I recommended 35 and up, but I think there's some other manufacturers out there that, they wanted it to be a level playing field. Sure. And they studied, they studied foot-pounds of energy and, velocities. And, they looked at everything. And so to kind of make it a fair across the spectrum there, that they made it where people can, if they got a 30 caliber air rifle, then by all means, I think you can hunt with that. And again, it all comes down to the ethics, and knowing what your gun can do, obviously. But I'm really looking forward to it. We worked at deer camp all this past weekend, getting our final mixture of food plots put out. One of the guys is out putting cameras up today. He was out finishing up some bush hogging on some trails, and so we're pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be an epic hunting season. And I've killed deer with big bore air rifles before, but I've had to travel from, to like Alabama or Florida
states,
or, just a state that would allow you to hunt. Now I can step out on the back porch of my, my air gun lodge here.
Your air gun lodge.
Let it rip,
I love it. And I just love the
my
way
when
we first started talking about all this stuff, you and I were talking about the fact that with air guns, the perception is they're little pellet rifles. And what's happened now is this ain't your grandfather's BB gun anymore. And this is a PCP, pneumatic, pre-pneumatic charged, just power that's just harnessed by the power of air, compressed air, not, just people that don't know a lot about this, not CO2. We're talking about just straight up air like you get in a scuba tank and, compressed into a tank in the gun and basically shot out in charges. And basically, it's just amazing the amount of power. You can compare something like an air gun to a muzzleloader, and I think that's one reason why they chose for muzzleloader season, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Similar energies, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, similar energies is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. Well, if we go all the way back, let's go back to the 1500s. Let's go back to 1780, when the Giordoni was made. Mm-hmm. People that don't understand the pre-charged pneumatic, I want to encourage them to, look at the Giordoni air rifle that Meriwether Lewis carried with the core discoveries. I don't know how it got into the United States. There's some speculation. I mean, if you Google it, and I'm sure some of the people are going to Google it as soon as I say this, but there was some speculation that he bought that at Harper's Ferry, or what would be Harper's Ferry, Virginia at that time, or later became Harper's Ferry, but he bought it from a government auction or a sale.
Okay.
He bought it from the armory. And, you know, I mean, that thing could shoot a 46 caliber round ball through a pine board that's 1 inch thick or better at 100 yards. I mean, the power for that day and age, and those were aired up to 800 PSI, and what we're shooting today is 3,000 and up.
Yeah.
You know?
That was a lot of PSI for back then, Rick. I mean, 800 PSI.
It really was.
For that.
It really was. And you know that, you know, Napoleon was totally petrified of the air rifle. In fact, that's why there's only a handful of Giordonis in existence, is because the Austrian army actually had and fought with air rifles. And so when Napoleon would capture those air rifles, the people were killed immediately and the rifles were destroyed. So
wow.
There's not a lot of them around. But, you know, had they have had these Giordoni air rifles during the Civil War, you know, things might have been a little different.
A little bit different, yeah.
But,
I was thinking about that, too. I didn't even think about that being at the same time, yeah.
So, you know, I mean, the thing about air rifles, they are very powerful. Whether you shoot a round ball, you know, I guess probably, well, I don't know how many years ago, when I was a kid growing up, I mean, all I knew was the round ball, and conical bullets were still kind of you know, they used them in muzzle loaders, but you just didn't see a whole lot of them available. You know, they would come pre-packaged or waxed or oiled, and you know, me and my dad always just shove a round ball down there and pack it real good and go out and shoot it, you know. But so the conical bullet is really come a long, long ways, and they've done so much research with air rifles and using the different tensile strength of lead and, you know, the Brinell hardness of the lead.
Right.
You know, they have really made leaps and bounds. In fact, Air Force just came out with a new valve for their air rifle. So I've got a suppressed 45 caliber, which is the Texan SS. And the other day I just put the tank on there and I went out and sighted it in at 100 yards. And with a 280 grain hollow point, I was just ringing basically the same hole.
Oh, wow. That's great.
You know, yeah, I mean, it was almost sub MOA. I was really blown away at how well that thing really shoots in 3 shots. And you could see it hitting the background, the berm in the back, almost level at 200 yards. It was almost level of what I was, you know, at the target I was shooting at the gun range. I mean, I just kept watching the dirt kick up, and the guy next to me is like, "Yeah, what are you shooting?
What is that thing?"
Yeah.
I get those looks at the range
like,
too, man. They're like, "What on earth is that
he's
thing?"
looking through his spotting scope at my target, and he was just blown away at how accurate that thing is.
Yeah.
And so really that new valve that I've got on there, it just took a 400 foot-pound gun and made it a 500 foot-pound gun. And the Texans, like the regular Texans that we have, you know, that valve made that gun a 600 foot-pound gun. I mean, you got another 100 foot-pounds of energy, you know, depending on what what weight of bullets you're shooting and that kind of stuff. And I really never shoot a heavy enough pill to make it, you know, that much. You don't need that much foot-pounds of energy to kill a deer at 100 yards.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I typically, I think when I'm shooting the deer that I've killed in the past, I've used a 330 grain bullet, and I don't remember the speeds that it was traveling at. I mean, it's, you know, I'm getting old and my memory's not as good as it used to be.
Don't start that old
stuff. Somewhere in my pile of junk in my cave up here, I do have some notes. I just don't know where they were at.
Okay.
Not very good show prep on my part.
That's okay, man. I'm not busting you on that. No, I was thinking, Chester Moore, our editor in chief, who you met before, Rick.
Sure.
Has we come by the Air Force booth every SHOT Show, and then I always come by every NRA show that I can make it. And Chester was really intrigued with how air guns would work, and he's got a hog problem in Orange, Texas, in his southeast Texas town, or East Texas, going far east towards Louisiana. And he basically had the experience with, I sent him my Texan through the UPS or the mail, I forget how I sent it, but I sent it to him, and I sent him some ammunition in another box, and basically had him put it all together and shoot his first beer can or whatever it was, Rockstar Energy can at 50 yards, and he just got hooked on it. I wasn't even there. Him and I live 5 hours away from each other. So I kind of gave him some pointers of what to do, sent him the ammunition, everything like that. He kills a hog 2 weeks later and is hooked. I mean, it does not take long to get a single shot air gun like the Air Force Texan and get somebody just stoked, because it's quiet, especially the SS models are, super silent, suppressed and integrally suppressed. You don't need a tax stamp to own a suppressor on them. You don't need any kind of firearms laws to relegate you not, or regulate you not being able to own one, and because they're not a firearm. And I mean, I talked about air guns a lot on this podcast, but basically it's because I really believe that they've come so far in so short amount of time, and technology is getting even better, and I know that's something you agree with too.
Absolutely. I've got a friend of mine out on the West Coast. His name's Cedric. His YouTube channel is Too Fast for You. And I
love that.
But yeah, he's a great dude, man. But let me tell you, he just did a build on one based on the Air Force Texan, and it's a 338 Lapua.
Oh my gosh!
And he's shooting apples and oranges at 300 yards with that thing. I mean, the guy. Oh my word! I'm just, the thing is, these guns. If that's all I did was carry an air rifle around, I mean, I'm a crappy shot. I'm not going to lie to anybody, but, Cedric is out there shooting every week and practicing. And I mean, he's built a gun that's going to stand the test of time. And it all came off the Air Force, build.
Right.
I mean, Air Force builds great guns. And the owner, John, told me one time when I first got involved with Air Force many years ago that was the most modified air gun in the industry.
Okay, as far as a platform,
AR-15,
it's modular.
Nothing you get for it.
Yeah, I was just saying it's basically a platform that people have built guns off of, like a Mauser or a Mosin or whatever, right?
Sure, absolutely, and
or Springfield.
I've had a lot of people offer, there's people out there that have approached me at SHOT Show, and there's really, really great folks out there that have offered all these mods for these guns, and sometimes it's kind of tempting, because let's face it, America was built on speed. Everybody wants something to go fast.
Yeah.
And if you ain't first, you last, Ricky Bobby.
Right. That's right.
But sorry,
that's good. That's welcome, dear Rick. That's welcome. Yeah, that's fine. Your Georgia boy's welcome to Texas anytime, buddy. You know that. So.
Yeah. But the thing, what I'm trying to get at is that I've always been the guy that, here's my take on the whole thing. If you work your tail off and you got a family and you're paying bills and you're trying to save, little money, try to sock a little bit here and rat hole some there, and you want to buy a gun, an air gun, you don't want to have to put a bunch of money into it to make it shoot.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are so many guns out on the market that you have to do that with. And, Air Force saw what I was doing, and I was just that guy that was doing stuff right out of the box. I mean, and that's kind of been the driving force, I guess. People, they look at what I'm doing, and I'm not modifying my gun, and I'm taking game at, crazy yardages and, up close, long ways off. And it's just something that I try to tell people that this is right out of the box.
Right.
If you spend the time with your gun, the most important piece of gear that you can buy as an air gunner is a chronograph and a rangefinder. I mean, that's the biggest investment, in my opinion, that once you get all your stuff and you start shooting, regardless of how big, whether it's a big bore, small bore, if you'll get a chronograph, you can tune your gun to be the most accurate gun. You can find out where it likes, because just because it says 3,000 PSI on the side of it doesn't mean you have to fill it to 3,000.
Yeah.
I've shot plenty of guns at 2,500 that were just deadly.
Yeah.
And shot really flat. So, but there's just so many things, but that's kind of where Air Force came in and saw what I was doing. And they were like, "Hey man, would you like to talk about our guns on a public forum?" And I'm like, "Sure." So
that's cool.
That relationship's been going on for quite some time now. And I'm grateful for their friendship and their, putting up with me. So.
No, that's cool. And I mean, the thing is, like, for instance, right now I'm shooting, I'm testing out for a Hatsan air rifle, 25 caliber, and it's a really good, sleek looking gun, Turkish walnut. I mean, it's really nice. I'll post some pictures of it once I get the review up on fishgame.com. But I mean, the innovations are just, these things are just so slick. And even to go primitive in the air gun world, I'm outside in my backyard. Like, I like to do stuff like that in my backyard like you do, Rick. And I basically got out my old 1960, 1970s model Winchester 177 caliber Springer pellet gun. And
right.
I'm like, duh, my son's 10 years old. I mean, he needs to really get good with this thing and iron sights, and he's a left-hand shooter. And I'm taking him out, after school or on the weekends and stuff when he's tired of playing video games or whatever. We'll go out there and just plink. And I mean, it's cheap. I mean, he was like, "Oh, don't spill any of those pellets." I'm like, "Son, they're cheap. I mean, this isn't like 22 rounds or something like that might go scarce one day. It's just lead." And it's so inexpensive to shoot and so inexpensive. And then we have two air guns that are, what do you call it? Full size replicas of a SIG 229 and then a Taurus revolver, a Smith & Wesson full size revolver. Well, he shoots BBs out of the revolvers and 177 caliber out of pellets out of the semi-automatic handgun. And holy smokes, he's getting really good with that thing. And I mean, but that's some air gun stuff that you could do in your backyard. You don't have to go to a gun range. You get to practice the fundamentals and all these other things that you can do. Umarex and other companies like that start making these replica style handguns that shoot BBs and pellets and basically don't. I think they call it fire and air, which basically is a firearm representative of a firearm, but it's really an air gun. And I just think that's cool.
Absolutely, man. I've actually got some of the Umarex guns. The Colt.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
The Colt Peacemaker.
The Colt Peacemaker.
And,
I've got one like the Colt Peacemaker.
Army.
Yeah, it's a Smith & Wesson style gun. But yeah,
I've got the Commander 45. It's just I love that CO2 gun. And and they've got the Winchester Model 94. I really need to probably get my hands on one of those. I actually have know a couple people over there at Umarex, and
yeah, I do too.
From my tenure with American Airgunner, but it is. You're right. It's going out there. It's not all about hunting. Sometimes it's just taking the kids out in the yard and just letting them shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that you can buy at the dollar store, like a deck of cards and clothespins, and let them. Go out there and try to shoot the hard out or the club or whatever. I mean, just make up games. It's so much fun just shooting air guns, period.
Well, and one of the things that I'm really big about is splatter targets. I love splatter burst targets. I always have. Birchwood Casey, I think, initially came out with the Dirty Birds, and then the other ones. You know what I'm talking about, Rick. You know the ones that splatter when you hit them, and they show the point of impact. Well,
Sure.
I've been doing that with the airgun targets lately. Just regular paper targets that are reactive like that have the splatter burst on them, and we've been making a game out of basically, can you make a headshot on this torso, or can you hit the bullseye in the middle of the chest, or whatever the case may be, with the handgun or the rifle or whatever, and just using a silhouette target, and then the targets that are around the silhouette of the head, basically, and making a game. And I even had a friend of mine, Michael, came over the other day, and he's not really a big gun guy. He's got a 308 and a powder burner 308 Winchester rifle, but basically he doesn't shoot a whole lot. And I got him in front of that gun, and my or behind the gun, I should say. My son and myself both got him behind the gun, and we took turns shooting revolvers and handguns and rifles, and it was the best time. I mean, it was guy time. It was man bonding, male bonding as they call it, and it was all with air guns, and I loved it. I absolutely just cherished those moments outside,
Absolutely. I mean, it's when my kids were little, we shot BB guns. I mean, I've got so many guns laying around that are just like daisies and Red Riders, right, and the Grizzlies, and I've even got my dad's old Benjamin air rifle from when he was a kid.
Cool.
And of course, just to kind of, I guess, back in the 50s. I mean, of course, that family, my grandpa was a preacher, so I know they didn't have much money, but I've got the box that came in that, and they gave it to my dad and his brother to share as a present. It's got both of their names written on the box, wow. Mike and Steve.
That's so cool.
And, yeah, it's awesome. And every now and then I'll get that thing out, and I'll pump her up 10 times and, crack off a shot off the top of my staircase over here, and just kind of, when I say my air lodge, it's kind of funny because I really don't know what to call it. I mean, it's a man cave. It's a
air lodge.
I mean, it's a paradise up here.
I love it.
Whatever you want it to be, but the thing is, I've got this deck that I walk out on. It's over my garage, and so at 50 yards, I've got a bunch of popper targets set up out there, and so I could sit up along the banister rail, sure, and I can, if I want to shoot squirrels, I can shoot squirrels all day, but then I can go ahead and shoot those popper targets, because if I'm up here working on a gun and I've got it bore sighted or just whatever, I can reach out there, just out the door, and if I hit that target at 50 yards, I can go fine tune it later on. But and these are small 22 caliber type popper target steels that you buy at Walmart or wherever your favorite sporting goods is.
Sure.
But
I'm with you.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I shoot all the time, and it's just something that I absolutely love doing. But when the kids were little, I guess I'm kind of chasing rabbits here. But when the kids were little,
we do that a lot of this
we
show.
Would you could go to the dollar store and you could buy those little suckers, the little lollipops that come in they're dangling. I think there's like, I don't know, like 12 of them on a they're all kind of taped together.
Yeah.
You can take them out of the package. Well, we can take those things. They're all different colors. And, I took a 2x4 and drilled a hole in it just big enough for that lollipop to sit in there. And you get back 10 yards or 10 feet and you shoot them, and they'll kind of sparkle when you hit them.
Yeah.
And, they'd get a kick out of that, or they would, like you could get glitter. It's fun. Sometimes it's messy, but it's fun when you have a little bit heavier air rifle.
Yeah.
And my absolute favorite, though, is they have a stuff. It's not silly string. It's called goofy string. It's at like the Dollar Tree. Okay. I guess Dollar Tree's everywhere now. But,
yeah, we've got them down here.
Yeah, I usually go in there and buy a flat.
a
I'll
big
buy a whole case
of them. Yeah,
looking
that's
at
what
me
I
like,
used to do.
You gonna have a party? You bet I am.
With my air gun.
You go out there and shoot that with an air rifle. I mean, if you get close enough, a BB gun will pierce that can.
Yeah.
But just like a break barrel air rifle, 22 caliber or 177, and man, the stuff when that thing goes and that colored foam goes everywhere, that I get so giddy. I mean, it just
I'm gonna have to try that, dude. That's too cool. Because I've been buying my son the flats of those.
Trees,
I've been buying my son flats of those to get just for him to spray in the backyard. But to shoot, what a great idea! I love it. That's awesome.
Absolutely, because you can set them up on just about anything, and the pressure that they're under. I mean, they fly up in the air pretty good and shoot a pretty good stream of silly string out of there. So. I've done videos. How many cans will Goofy String will Air Force?
Yeah, I've seen those. I've seen you do some of that stuff. That's cool. Yeah,
and it's just so much fun. I mean, I just that's my all-time favorite shooting. That, and then the other one. Now, I don't. If there's kids listening to this podcast, always check with your parents before you do it. But,
yes.
Whipped cream. If you'll go to the cooler at the Dollar Tree, or if you go to wherever your grocery store, get your mom to buy you a dozen cans of that stuff. And you talk about explosive fun. I mean,
love it.
You can just take one at a time and shoot them.
Oh, wow.
And you shoot it with a big bore. Shoot it with the 457, 45 caliber Texan.
Right.
And it will literally roll that can out flat. I mean, roll it. It'll split it from the seams. Because the pressure that stuff is under, as long as you keep that in the cooler and, take it out of the refrigerator and then go outside immediately and shake it up real good and then shoot it, man, I mean, the pressure that's under that stuff is crazy strong.
Wow,
it's a
that's
lot
awesome.
Of fun.
That's awesome.
But it gets kind of pricey. I mean, obviously at the Dollar Tree, it's $1.
It's $1, but yeah, still it's $12. Yeah,
but I mean, there's small cans of whipped cream. I like those big fat, family.
Yeah, the family size version. Well, and the thing is, we started talking about deer hunting. This is a great way to practice without having to go to the range. A lot of this you can do in your backyard if you have the fences and the backstops and stuff where you don't have errant, flying pellets and stuff all over the place, and or shooting, some soda cans or beer cans, whatever the case may be, down to the ground, like we do at my father-in-law's place because he didn't have any fences, but he uses a BB gun. My son practices there, but man, this is just great practice. I mean, think about a lot of people that recommend shooting a 22 year-round to get ready for rifle season for deer. Well, if shooting an air gun's even cheaper than that in a lot of cases, especially if you have a spring-loaded gun, like I've got my 177 Winchester I talked about earlier. It's a break open Springer, or if you've got something like the Talon, the Talon P. I've got the young, the short air rifle pistol. I showed that to dude. I had a birthday party for my son Jackson the other day, and one of his friends' dads came along. He's now a listener to this podcast, Nate. So if you're out there listening, Nate, shout out to you. But I showed him the Talon P, and he was like, "What on earth is this thing, man?" I mean, it just looks so foreign from any other gun there ever was. And I said, "It's a 25 caliber air gun, and it basically, you can make several shots off of one fill, and basically it shoots compressed air." And he was a Boy Scout guy, he had a son in Boy Scouts and stuff, and never seen anything like this, but it was just so cool, that look at how much fun you could have with this thing, was his thought. So I kind of thought that was cool.
Absolutely. I mean, I show people my air rifles all the time. Of course, being on the road rodeoing like I do, I usually carry a Condor SS with me, or I might even carry my break barrel. I mean, I've got a Kamita Lynx, which is an Air Force international gun, and I've got the Kamita V10, which is a multi-shot. But I'll carry some form of air rifle with me out on the road, and people that have never seen them, it's like they just can't put it down.
Yeah.
And it's a really, now 22 ammo is pretty much readily available. It's finally come back, and you could buy it. It'll never be 99 cents a box.
No, that was the other point I was going to make. Exactly.
But I try to buy it. I mean, I do. I try to buy 22 ammo whenever I see it on sale, or I'll buy like cheaper than dirt, or one of these discount places. They'll have it on sale for the Academy. I don't know if that's you might have to edit that.
No, that's fine.
But I go over there and they'll run a sale and it's $1.99 a box, and I've seen it for as low as $1.75. But I'll buy that and just put it in storage for I don't go crazy with it, but that's how I love shooting rimfire guns. I've done videos on rimfires of my childhood, and I get great pleasure out of shooting that. So my point to that was that when you get into shooting air rifles, you don't have to go specifically to a range. If you're in a backyard of any size, and you like you said, you have the right backstops,
right?
You can get a 22 caliber Condor SS that is less than 88. It's less than 88 decibels.
Yep.
I mean, your car door makes more noise when you close it, or your screen door. So
I've never thought of it like that, but that's true.
Yeah. But the cool thing about that is that you can stay in practice all the time. So those guys that are out shooting 22s waiting on deer season, like you said, they can pick up an air rifle, and once you get over the initial expense of getting into PCP rifles,
right, a little expensive, but yeah,
you can save a ton of money on ammunition. Because you buy a 10 of pellets. I buy mine. I get a really good deal through JSB and
Diablo.
So
Diablo.
I usually buy bulk.
Yeah.
And at one point in my life, which I'm not doing that anymore, but I would go out and literally shoot a can a day, which is 150 rounds, 200 rounds, and I would shoot every day, and I love shooting air guns. And I love hunting with air guns because of the challenge. That's, people tell me all the time, well, I don't get to hunt, or I don't like to hunt. I don't want to kill stuff. You don't have to kill stuff. You can go out and kill lollipops and whipped cream and things like that and get as much enjoyment out of it.
Goofy string.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But those, some of that stuff, like those peeps, that's a waste of time. Peeps don't shoot good,
Okay,
Easter,
that's good to know.
Yeah. I don't think anything can kill a peep.
Yeah. Peeps are like nuclear actives and stuff. They're pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah. But as far as deer hunting goes, my family, we love deer meat and we eat deer meat. In fact, my kids got me a meat grinder last year for my birthday. I'd been using my neighbor's meat grinder, and but we clean all of our own deer, and because really, processing meat, paying somebody to process it anymore. It's $75-$85 to get a deer processed.
Oh, at least.
And that kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose of saving money on deer hunting. So
it's just basic processing.
We make
that's just burger.
Yeah,
and steaks,
we make our own hamburger. Yeah, and I could buy a lot of beef for $75.
Right.
So I try to kill. The great thing about Georgia, we get 12 deer a year. So we can get 2 bucks and 10 doe, or we can get 12 does. So I've never limited out on deer, because obviously I have a full-time job and the rodeo thing too. So but I typically will kill 5 or 6 deer a year and process them myself. And I bought a vacuum sealer, and that was a great investment, because I've got deer meat down there now that I can go pull out and thaw it out, and it looks like I just put it in there yesterday.
Yep. That's cool.
So we eat a lot of deer meat. We
do too.
Cook the back straps up, and I thought about doing maybe a recipe thing, and I'm hoping that this year during deer season we're going to do some video stuff out at our deer camp. We got a really cool deer camp, and I'm going to do some Dutch oven cooking and
cool.
and cook some deer meat, some different casseroles in the Dutch ovens. We're going to film it, and so I don't know. I mean, in my mind, I see how I want it to come out. Well, my viewers will have to hold their breath because until I can get it out there. But
no, you make some great videos. That'll be good.
Yeah, well, I just bought a GoPro the other day, and I've been wanting one for a long time. And it's got this mode on there. It's like a hyper speed time lapse. Mm-hmm. And so while we were cleaning the deer camp, I set it up, and I went back and watched the footage last night. It was really cool, man. It's awesome. Just like everybody's kind of buzzing around, tractors moving in and out, and cool. So that's going to be so much fun because we've got people like Air Force is coming down to hunt with me this year.
Cool.
Iraq veteran 8888 is like a huge gun channel.
Oh yeah.
I actually got him converted into air gunning.
Yeah. I know. I remember that.
Really
now,
fell in love. Yeah, he fell in love with air guns, and
that's Eric, right? Eric and Chad, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Eric and Chad. Yeah,
they're good guys.
They're a part of our deer camp, and in fact, Eric is out at deer camp right now, and cool. He's been texting me this whole time. He went and finished up a bunch of bush hogging out there today, and cool. Put some game cameras up. So. And some feeders. But, the thing is, we've got guys coming. I'm not trying to be a name dropper, but, like, I've got friends in the industry, as you well do,
yeah, sure.
But some of our industry friends that are gun guys are, like, calling up, going, man, I really would like to kill a deer with an air rifle. And so I've got, some friends from Brown Elser coming and cool. Some of the guys that I go treasure hunting with, and that's another podcast for another time, so I won't go too deep into the treasure hunting thing.
That's fine. Let's talk about treasure hunting on this podcast. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's really cool. It's just you and I have both have so many different. You do the rodeo and the air gun and the hunting and all. I do this podcast and my own video stuff and my own YouTube channel and the writing and the publishing and everything with the magazine. I mean, you and I both have our fingers in a lot of pies, man, for sure.
We really do. We really do. And somebody asked me the other day, when do I find time to sleep? And I told them, I said, usually when I'm behind the wheel is about the only time I can get anything done.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
Yeah, I stay on the road quite a bit, but you know what? I mean, all in all, it's a good life. We've been blessed, and air gunning has just been a great, great hobby. And I'll tell you, and you know this, and I won't go too deep into it, but, our oldest son was killed in a tragic car accident last year. He was 23 years old, and he was a rodeo cowboy. He rode bareback horses. I mean, of course, you being deep in the heart of Texas, you know about that, because that's where we're from anyway. We're Texans, but
sure.
We just happen to be in Georgia now. But, yeah, he was on his way home to see us, and, we got this phone call that we just never wanted, anybody wants to get.
Sure.
But, so, we lost Matthew, but what I'm getting at is the fact that had it not been for my outdoor family keeping me propped up,
yep.
It was, the people that came to Matthew's funeral were just, it was just amazing to me that the people and the phone calls and the text messages that, I mean, I had a full schedule of hunting and filming and I quit. I mean, I shut off. I shut everything down. I'm canceled everything I had, and I just wasn't going to go. I wanted to crawl up in a hole somewhere, or crawl under a rock and hide and grieve. But had it not been for my friends, you included, just the prayers and when they called, Air Force called and said, look, we know what's going on. You don't have to, we're not holding you to the fire to do any of the things that and they lost money. I mean, these people lost money on canceling these gigs.
Right.
And, my wife was like, you really need to go out to Texas to the SHOT Show. or to the NRA show.
NRA
She goes,
yeah.
you need to go.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not ready. I'm going to be crying. And, you know, and even Yvette was like, you know what? If somebody says one word to you about crying, she goes, I'll go beat them up myself because most people don't know what's going on.
Yvette is really good.
So lo and behold,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What's that?
Yvette's a very strong-willed woman. That's what I've always liked about her. You know, she was like, you tell him to come talk to me. But man, I couldn't. I mean, just any dad. I mean, imagine going through that with his son. I mean, an adult son at that too. I mean, man, my heart just broke for you when all that happened. Still does. But I mean, it was really. I mean, I really felt for you. You know.
So. Yeah, it's been a tough. It's there's no, I've heard remarks from not outdoor industry people, but just people that are ignorant. Like, they'd go, well, how you doing? I said, well, each day's an uphill battle. It seems like there's better days. You have, some are better than others.
Sure.
And I heard through a friend of mine, somebody was talking about it, and the guy told me, he said, well, old so-and-so said, well, gosh, it's been a year, as if I'm just supposed to flip a switch and be done.
You're still
over
wrong,
it.
Man. It's still
and you don't get over it. And there's no, there's nothing written about grieving. And something else I do want to encourage, because there's so many listeners. You have such a huge listener base, which is awesome. The thing about if you lose somebody, if you lose a son or a daughter, a child, a parent, a loved one, whatever, I want to encourage you to reach out and find a grief counseling, grief share program, because not that it's going to be the end all or the save all or anything else, but the fact that there's other people out there that have lost, and then that's what you're grieving about is loss. And there's people out there that will know they don't know how you feel, because that was the first thing out of my mouth. These people don't know how I feel.
Right.
Sure. Of course they don't.
That's normal.
And they never claim to. They never claim to know how I feel. But they've been through the same issues, the same challenges, the same everything. And they've basically, what you're doing at a grief share is learning how to cope with the problems that arise. Say, for instance, you can be ambushed by grieving or grief.
Sure.
Or a memory. You're ambushed. Everything, you're driving down there, everything's good, you're happy-go-lucky, and then all of a sudden a song comes on the radio, and you pull over and you're just crying.
Yeah.
That's being ambushed by grief. And so there's so much out there that people, because the reason I'm kind of elaborating on this is because suicide in our country has been so rampant.
Yeah,
people are broken.
Yeah.
And you can be fixed, people think that, this is, there's no hope for me. I'm at the end of my rope. I'm done. But it's not true. So I just want to encourage your listeners to, whatever you're going through, seek some type of counseling. There's so many great books out there.
Sure.
Including the Word of God.
Right.
And I make no bones about that, but
no, for sure.
But yeah, I kind of wanted to put that out there. But had it not been for my outdoor family,
sure,
when I got to Texas that year, it was so overwhelming to me that there's people, even at SHOT Show last year.
Yeah,
there were people that I'm walking down the hall going to a booth, and out of the blue, somebody hollers my name, and I turn around, and it's just one of these great hunters in the outdoor industry comes up and shakes my hand, asks me how I'm doing.
Yep.
Puts his arms around me and says, dude, we've been praying for you. We love you. Everybody out here, the industry loves you. And I'm just like, my gosh,
The support in this industry is huge. It's true. I've seen that.
There's great people in outdoors,
and I've seen that, through your eyes, through what you've experienced too. But other things that outdoorsmen experience. There's more of a community there than there are in a lot of quote unquote industries. There's that support system there. There's that care. There's that love. And I've always felt that from you and from Air Force and from all the folks that I know in the industry. And no matter what I'm going through, it's like you guys always have my back, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. And I think you and I've kind of been friends for, well, I mean, I guess we met maybe almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been
Has
a
it been
while.
that long?
It's been a long. It's let's see, 2011. So let's see. Oh, yeah, 9 years. Yeah. So.
And so, I mean, you and I kind of hit it off. I mean, you were hanging around the booth. I couldn't get rid of you, so thought I'd talk to you.
That's right.
but no, I mean, and the thing I love about you is that you have always, you're always so personable. You've always made it a point, no matter how big of a hurry you're in, you might duck into the booth at SHOT Show and go, hey, I got a meeting right here, but how you doing, Rick? Good to see you. I want to come back and talk to you.
Sure.
And, and at some point, man, you show up and we're able to sit down and really just, shoot the breeze.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Kind of forget about what's going on.
Yeah, no, and I mean, the one thing I'll just say, because I know, we started the thing that we talked about on the last podcast that my listeners may or may not have heard was about fishing and therapy and the outdoors and therapy and how the outdoors is a release. I mean, Cal Gonzalez has come on this program many times to talk about he's going through, kidney dialysis, and basically he had a lady code on him right next door to where his kidney station was, and they were trying to revive her on the floor, right in front of him, and he couldn't go anywhere because he was hooked up to dialysis. And he said, fishing was what was his release from that. Was him letting that go, because that was so traumatic for him to be involved in something like that. And for me, the woods and the water are both like that, because I mean, and then the last couple of years I didn't be able to do it because of ICAST show, but Camp Agape, which is the bereavement camp for kids, and then they're doing an Agape Family Retreat Center next for adults and families that have lost loved ones between the age of 7 and 12, and then families can be any age. But basically, it's a bereavement camp, a grief camp for I'm trained in grief therapy and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I am part of that because I see I've been through depression, I've been through anxiety, I see what this world will beat you up sometimes, and stuff will happen, and you'll lose someone you can't replace. There's nothing that'll bring them back. And just to have that support, that community, that's where I'm going with that, to add to your point.
Sure, absolutely. And I tell people all the time, I've had people literally text me or email me or message me, through Facebook or Instagram and say, I saw you at wherever, and I was really intimidated, and I'm like, why? I mean, don't.
It's like you're really not approachable, Rick.
I mean, I'm not. Look, I'm just Rick Ward, man. The Urban Airgunner is just a tag. It's just a thing.
Yeah, I know.
I
that's
mean,
what I like about you is you're so accessible,
I
man.
Make it my goal.
Yeah.
Do what?
I said you're so accessible, man. It's just you're so easy to talk to, just like you say about me. I feel the same way about you.
Yeah.
We shoot the breeze for hours sometimes.
Well, I try to make it a goal to make somebody's life better.
Yes.
Just either by a smile or a handshake or encouragement. I had a guy send me a message the other day, and it really made me feel so good. And I typically try not to lie. I mean, I went and shared that with my wife, but this guy in Washington State was at he was at the Texas Airgun show a couple years ago, had his grandson there. His grandson lives in Washington State. He lives in Texas, but he brought his grandson with him, and his grandson had never shot an air rifle. And I just happened to be down there at the gun range that day, and he was, I could see, and I said, well, do you want to shoot it? And he said, well, I've never shot one. And I showed him everything he needs to know about shooting it. And I spent, 5 minutes, maybe 10 tops with him. And, it just made their day. And they came back up to the booth, and I ran into them a little later on in the day. And, they were just kind of hanging around the booth. Well, the other day, out of the blue, I get a message from this guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, you made such an impression. He goes, my grandson asked me, he goes, we sure missed you at the Texas Airgun show this year. And I said, yes, sir. I said, well, I've been battling a few things. And I said, we've had, some things going on in our family. I said, I've been really, really busy. And he says, well, my grandson he asked me if I saw you at the Airgun show, and I said he wasn't there. And he said, I just wanted to call or message you and say thank you for making such a huge impression on my grandson, because he asked about you all the time.
Oh, wow.
And if you can take 5 minutes to spend with a kid.
Yep.
And I'm preaching to the choir because, my kids, I mean, I spent a lot of time with them, but after you lose a child, you think, man, did I really spend enough time with them?
Yeah, did I do enough? Yeah,
and,
sure.
So it was just, man, I was so taken back by that. I mean, that somebody actually reached out to send a message and say thank you that you spent time with my grandkid. He's never going to forget it.
Sure.
And so really, yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of guy that if you see me somewhere in public or at a show or whatever, now obviously if somebody's got a microphone shoved in my face or a camera, which I try not to do, I mean, you can wait. I can get rid of it. But for the most part, I love everybody. I talk to people all the time. I mean, that's what I do for a living is talk.
Sure.
But I try to encourage people and I've kind of made it a goal to try to be positive and just really encourage people. I mean, if you're having a bad day, I mean, you turn that frown upside down. Let's smile.
There's just
a friendly gesture.
Yeah, sure.
Well, and to your point too, one of the reasons why you and I do videos so much, Rick, is to teach that next generation, because they're watching, and I get comments from them all the time. Those teenagers that are trying to figure out how to shoot a crossbow for the first time, or trying to figure out how to shoot a compound bow. And I've had guys that have messaged me on YouTube, my YouTube channel before, and they're like, "You just saved me like 5 hours of frustration, by your one video." And I'm like, dude, I mean, I didn't think about that when I did it, but it's a ripple effect. We have no idea the impact we are making by our actions. That's my point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean,
I heard something the other day, and I know I don't know who did it. The guy didn't know who said this. It was one of these motivational speakers that he was listening to, but it was so profound that it's like everybody in the world breathes the same amount of breath throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So in an 8-hour day, we've all breathed the same amount of air.
Yep.
In a 10-hour day, 12-hour day. So you have a choice to, when you get up, take that breath and do something good with it. Yeah. Encourage people.
Sure.
Or you have a choice to be, humdrum, bad attitude, negative. And I mean, it was just kind of the way he said it in the conversation. I was just like, really, we do have a choice. We have a choice to make the world better, make people better, make somebody's day, make somebody smile. And so that's kind of what I try to do with each of my breaths, because they are limited.
Yeah, they are.
We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So.
I just found out today I lost a friend from a fraternity brother in my music school that I went to for 4 years he was there 2 years while I was there, and had a brain hemorrhage or a stroke of some kind and fell over, and they tried to revive him and they couldn't get him back, and he's my age, and I was just like, wow. I mean, it can be that be that fleeting, but that all being said, especially in the outdoor community, Rick, we have the opportunity to impact young lives. We have the opportunity to impact new hunters or people that don't understand hunting and fishing and don't understand the outdoor lifestyle and don't understand why we do what we do for therapy and recreation more than just because it's cool to go out and catch and kill something. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I mean, there's a guy, and I keep, YouTube. We're all about YouTube around here.
Well, you and I are both YouTube creators, so yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a content creator, but I don't. My YouTube channel really sucks. I mean, I love your YouTube put it that way.
I like your YouTube channel.
Well, thank you, friend.
Well,
You're
course.
my one fan.
I know. Stop that.
But, there's a guy out there that now this is a really impactful story to me. It just hit home with me.
Sure.
But there's he lives in Memphis, and I'm trying to think of the name. Southern Airgunner, I think it is, or Southern Gunner, Southern Airgunner. So, anyways, Kenny is his name. Kenny and I became really good friends over the years, and Kenny lost a daughter, and when we lost Matthew, he reached out to me and really wrapped his arms around me. But so I was watching one of Kenny's videos. He had done a video on the Texan, and of course, I'm very, very defensive of Air Force air guns. So, I mean, whenever somebody puts something out about Air Force, I go and watch it.
Right.
Really. So he did this, and I got to scrolling around his videos. I even subscribed to his channel.
Uh-huh.
And so this video pops up, and he's talking about this military guy who was being moved from one place to another, and his wife had this Benjamin air rifle that his dad had given him, and he'd had it for all these years. It was his dad's, and it was his. And anyway, she leaned it up against the car and was moving boxes and whatnot. Well, ultimately, you can guess what happened.
Uh-huh.
It got run over and broke.
Right.
And it was unable to be repaired. And this guy's a military veteran.
Right.
So Kenny goes and buys this guy a gun and sends it to him.
Uh-huh.
And I was so taken back by this video, and it wasn't one of those, "Hey, look at me, I'm doing this." Kenny, if you ever watch his videos, you're gonna know that this guy comes. His heart's the size of Texas.
Sure.
I mean, he gives stuff away to people all the time because he said, "You know what? I've got so many guns. I've been blessed with a great job." He goes, "I don't have to, I don't need all this stuff," and he helps people all the time. So he helps youth. Troubled youth. He helps them by taking them out to the range and teaching them gun safety and teaching them proper ways to shoot, and they shoot air guns. He's part of a big group that does this up in that area. And I was so taken back by that, and I said, I need to do something. So I reached out to Air Force and asked them for some help, and they did, and they really stepped up to the plate, and we got him a Talon SS for the youth, and I got him a bunch of pellets so he wouldn't have to keep buying pellets and stuff.
Sure.
And I just those random acts of kindness, you pay it forward, and it comes back to you tenfold. And I feel like me doing that many years ago, that when I look back at air gunning, and the people that I've impacted, the people that have impacted me, you have to gain that kind of knowledge and that kind of compassion to help people
sure
along the way. And let's face it, our youth, these kids rather sit and watch, play video games and watch TV and then get out in the outdoors. Our country's fighting obesity and
right.
I'm fat and happy. I'm not obese. I'm just fat and happy. But at the end of the day, it's the lack of exercise and being outdoors that we're getting.
Right.
We don't, people don't get out to do that. And I guess, with all this rambling on that I'm doing, that makes no sense to anybody right now. That's going to get edited. The fact is that if you just go walk through the woods, take your air rifle, sling it over your back, go walk down a nature trail somewhere. That doesn't mean you have to kill anything.
Right.
But you might see a soda can that some bum threw out there in the woods, and you go, "Oh, look, there's one I can shoot." Then you pick it up and carry it to the receptacle. But
right.
The fact is that I spend more time not killing stuff, especially during deer season. I will sit in a deer stand every night that I can, and I have so many great opportunities to pull the trigger. I don't.
Right.
I just sit and I'll watch deer play and go by, and I'm thinking, boy, how close will that guy get to me before he wins me?
Yep.
It's about spending time in the outdoors and hiking and fishing. And that boy of mine, Matthew, he loved to fish. When we bought this little farm we're on, that was kind of the deal that sealed it. I mean, that when we pulled in this driveway, I just had this vision of grandkids going fishing and all this kind of stuff. And Matthew spent his high school days down there at that pond.
Wow.
It's more of a stock tank. It's not a
sure.
It's not a lake. It's a stock tank, but it's it covers an acre maybe.
Okay.
It's there was catfish and bass and brim and just sitting on the porch watching those kids go out there and swim and be kids and fish. And I've got neighbors that call and, hey, can we bring our grandkids over? And I'm like, you bet you can. It's just cool to watch kids get out and do that kind of stuff.
No, I get that. For sure.
Yeah, fishing is very therapeutic. And hunting is therapeutic. I mean, getting out there and look, you can solve the world's problems sitting in a deer stand, and you can come back home and try to apply some of the stuff you thought about, and you don't have to kill something, to go hunting.
Yeah, that's right.
You could be hunting for a solution to a problem, and you can do it out of a deer stand. So
that is so true. I mean, that's just good. That's just really good common sense about why we do what we do in the outdoors. And people that don't hunt and fish don't understand the power of that, the enormity of that, if you will. So,
absolutely.
I just think that's good.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I just think that's good. And I mean, I just, I'm always about, no matter who listens to the show or who doesn't listen to the show, the whole goal of this podcast has always been for the greater good. It's always been if I can learn enough to teach, if I can have people that come on this show and that inspire and enlighten and educate people and entertain people at the same time, which I think both of you and I have been very entertaining tonight. But I mean, it's all for, why do we read magazines? Why do we watch hunting shows? Why do we listen to podcasts about hunting and fishing and stuff? To become better and more refined at what we do in the sport, and also to enjoy the journey. It's really what it's about. I'm so tired of it's all about the giant 200 class booner that's out there, or a high fence buck in Texas that's 300 class, inch deer, and this one's bigger than yours, and I paid $10,000 for this one, and it's starting to get too pricey. Hunting in Texas, especially with the land prices going up, I mean, and lease prices and everything are just astronomical, and I'm just trying to get us back to basics. So why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I need to send you a picture of that deer. Here's a funny thing. My dad was a big traditional bow hunter. He actually made his own bow.
Cool.
There's a very good family friend of ours down in East Texas. His name is Pete Clayton.
Okay.
He actually is a bow maker. He's been featured in several magazines, and he makes his own arrows and everything. I mean, and my dad had always loved bow hunting, and so Pete used to come down to our farm down there in East Texas and hunt. My dad, Pete's like, well, James, you need to come make you a bow. I'll show you how to make a bow. So my dad made his own bow and made his own arrows, and I mean, really just head over heels in traditional hunting. Well, the trail cam that he had set up at the deer stand, I mean, it's like he would go out there, and I mean, Mom would send me pictures. This massive deer that my dad had been feeding for several years. And every time I talked to Dad, did you see him? Oh, yeah, I saw him. I said, did you get the draw on him? He goes, nah, I couldn't get a shot at him. I mean, that deer was literally sitting in front of the deer stand.
Yeah, quartering away, broadside.
Eating corn. Yeah. And my dad just would not shoot him. Well, Dad passed away 4 years ago this month. And, November.
Mm-hmm.
November will be 4 years. And so my mom sent me a picture the other day. She's sitting on the back porch and sends me this picture of this big old bruiser coming through there, and he's probably 14 or 15 points. And that's the same deer that buck that my dad had been feeding all those years.
Oh, man.
And I show it to my friends, and it's really, he's a long ways off. I mean, he's out there. I mean, Mom zoomed her phone in as tight as she could get it and took a picture, but you could just see the mass on this huge rack on this deer from East Texas. He's not big bodied by any means. He's typical, East Texas deer, but the rack was just beautiful.
Wow.
And I told Mom, I said, I'm coming down there to airgun that sucker. And she's like, your dad let that deer walk all those years. And it was just, but what I'm getting at is my dad would sit in that deer stand and he might be reading his Bible or doing a devotion. And after Dad retired, I mean, he'd been a preacher. My grandfather was a preacher. Dad was a preacher. But
sure.
So the thing is, I mean, he spent more time in that deer stand not hunting,
right,
but just either meditating or just enjoying God's creation. I mean,
yeah.
But I always chuckled about the fact that he let this deer go that anybody would love to shoot
it's still
with
there.
A bow that they made themselves.
Yeah.
This
is awesome spectacular moment. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the price of everything down there. I mean, my mom sold some land here a while back, and it was, wasn't prime real estate or anything, but I think it was almost like 10 or 12,000 an acre.
Yeah,
and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like ridiculous.
So,
and of course, more and more subdivisions are swallowing up the ranches and the farms that I grew up on in East Texas. And I mean, every time I go back, I'm just blown away at how much it's grown, because the ranch that I actually worked on as a kid, and then on to my young adult years, the ranch owner just passed away last year. And, I don't know if his kids are going to sell it. I mean, it's a pretty nice sized ranch for being in East Texas, and it's got everything you would want. I mean, it's got barns and beautiful house and, just ponds and creeks. I mean, that's my childhood memories of going out and camping every weekend and, doing all that fun stuff. And that's part of the problem is there's not really any place for kids to go anymore, to experience that kind of thing. And, I try to encourage people to go. I love camping.
Oh, yeah.
I don't get to do it as much, but that is something that, my dad loved cooking with Dutch ovens, and I'm not as good as he was, or even don't even claim to be good at it. But that's something that, you get out there. It's like you had said something about trial and error.
Sure.
One day, you can't get good at it unless you try it, and start.
You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great, I mean, that's just the old Zig Ziglar saying, but I mean, that's just part of the way. I mean, my whole point with all this is just making hunting more accessible through public lands. I mean, that's important. There are podcasts that are dedicated to nothing but public land hunting that are here in Texas, but I mean, I'm just all about, let's get the kids outdoors. Let's get people and be good forces to ourselves and loving ourselves and loving the outdoors, loving God's creation and communing with God's creation, but also about, making it more accessible for for more people, to be able to come out and experience what you and I experience,
Absolutely. And the whole thing, I mean, people, it's funny because I get comments sometimes. These guys go, "There's nothing urban about this guy." And
the Urban Airgunner,
he might be an urban hillbilly or something. But there's nothing urban about him, and rightly so. I mean, I live on a small farm, but it's just outside the city limits.
Sure.
And, airgun hunting really became a priority for me. When we bought this place, because of all of the coyotes that were on this place, and the coyotes that are roaming these neighborhoods, and just in Georgia in general, we're covered with coyotes. But what I'm getting at with that is that there are people that are in urban areas that are going to hear this podcast, and they're going to go, I can't go out. I don't have property to go hunt. I hear it all the time. I've got a friend. Well, we have a mutual friend, Eric Henderson. Yep. Sometimes he gets bummed out because he lives in a subdivision.
Yeah,
and he got a little backyard, and he's like, man, I don't have any place to hunt. but there's industrial parks out there that are just sitting idle. And I probably said that once before.
You have. Yeah, that's true.
Podcast.
It's true. I mean, you've got industrial parks, you've got abandoned buildings and stuff like that. You've got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many places. You even wrote something about hunting, bow hunting in these.
Yeah. I have.
Parks.
Yeah, I've written extensively about urban bow hunting. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, add urban air gunning to the scene.
Sure.
Georgia has some urban deer hunting, and when I talked to when we were up there working, trying to get it passed, I talked to somebody and told them, I said, you could really change the amount of insurance that's spent by opening up urban deer hunting seasons with air guns, because you can actually go in there and kill some deer, and you can kill them ethically.
Yep.
Even more so with an air gun than you can with a bow, in my opinion.
Oh, sure.
And, the amount of deer car collisions that we have in the state of Georgia, I mean, it's ridiculous. I've got a brand new truck, and I hit a deer with it for my first oil change,
Oh, my gosh.
And
That's
it was stupid. It was stupid, man. I was so mad.
Boy.
But that's the thing. And I said, if you'll go to the insurance, to the guy that is in charge of, that kind of stuff, and you go to the insurance commission and y'all sit down and go, if we could open up urban deer hunting seasons in these areas that are plagued with deer car collisions, you can cut down on some of that. So then in turn, the hunting community comes in there and starts hunting, and we're helping you.
Right.
We're helping you not have such high premiums and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's so many great opportunities for that. There's a lot of states that have urban air gun hunting.
Right.
It's only a week long. Some of them are 2 days long. Some of them are, whatever they may be. But, Missouri was great. I loved going to Missouri because they had urban air gun hunting.
Yeah, no, that's solid.
You go into somebody's backyard and whack a deer. I mean, it's just, it's just that thrill of being able to hunt with an air rifle. And it's guys bow hunt because it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's
up
intimate.
close and personal. And until maybe 10 years ago, when bows became ridiculously fast and strong, my cousin used to tell me all the time. He goes, he won't use a release. He uses his finger tabs, because to him it is more personal.
Sure.
Holding that bowstring back and letting it go from his own fingers.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
And air gunning is the same way.
Yeah.
To me, it's personal.
It's that connection.
You get that. Yeah, you can shoot that deer. You can shoot that deer from 10 yards, 100 yards, wherever.
Right.
And to me, it's personal.
Yeah.
Because it's up close. It's not like sitting out there with a 700 Win Mag or 300 Win Mag or 7mm mag, whatever.
Magnum, yeah, I know. Yeah,
and cranking one out there at 400 or 500 yards and go, yeah, man, that's a feat in itself.
Smoked him.
Look, my hat's off to the long range shooters out there.
Yeah,
I won't kiss any of those guys.
Yeah, nothing but love for you guys. But no, there's place for them too. But I see exactly what you're saying. It's an intimate experience when you're with a bow or an air gun, and that's one reason why they call me the outside of the box rider, because I write about crossbows and air guns and compound bows and all kinds of stuff that not everybody in the mainstream talks about. But I mean, it's really more of a private experience. Like what you're talking about, Rick. It really is. So,
yeah,
it just makes
absolutely.
A lot of sense.
And I, there's so many great things about being able to be an air gunner. I mean, Tim from Airgun Hobby Magazine asked me one time. He goes, "What is you got this saying?" He goes, "I always hear it. Don't just hunt it, air gun it. What does that mean?"
Yeah.
Well, it first of all, I'm a huge Lonesome Dove fan, and old Gus had that sign out there that said, "We don't rip pigs." Yeah, and it had the Latin on there. It was Uverum feet, Uverum double feet, or whatever it was. And he said it's a motto, and it just says itself.
Yeah.
But if you really look into it, when you're talking about hunting with an air gun, to me, don't just hunt it, air gun it means to be the best you can be at what you're doing at that moment.
Sure.
And that's using an air rifle, because you've got one shot.
Yes.
You've got, you've got to make that one shot count.
Yeah.
And you need to be better than the average guy that's using a powder burner.
Yeah.
And, that's just kind of what that means to me is be the best you could be with an air rifle. And, Air Force came out with that 257 last year, and that is such a phenomenal rifle. I've got guys that call me and they're like, dude, I just shot a prairie dog out at 250 yards, and I mean, they're just with an air rifle. I mean, who would have thought, that air would propel a projectile that far and still be accurate and deadly,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I'm actually working on my 257. I'm setting it up. I'm going to put a new scope on it and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I got to go out and tune it, but I'm going to do some long range coyote hunting
Cool.
this year. We're actually setting up a hunt and some filming to go out and try to shoot some coyotes at distance with an air rifle.
Great. Yeah, it's a good flat shooting round too.
Until now. Yeah, I mean, up until now, I mean, I've killed lots of coyotes with the 45 caliber.
Sure.
I mean, my longest shot was like 134 yards on a coyote at night in the dark with night vision on my rifle that cost more than the rifle. But at the end of the day, it's thinking outside the box,
Sure.
It's challenging myself to go out and do these things with an air rifle. And I've shot bobcats. We got a lot of quail plantations down here. And we've got a lot of bobcats. They're not as pretty as the South Texas and West Texas bobcats are by any means. We don't have those big bodied salt and pepper, beautiful bellied animals, but we do have some fair bobcats around here. And, I've taken guys, I took Iraq veteran out and we got it on film. He shot a bobcat at 80 yards in the dark with thermal on that with a Texan. And we got it on film that, how electric a bobcat is, man. He probably jumped 4 foot in the air and, hit the ground and he was done,
Wow.
Wow. And I've done the same. I've shot him, 65, 70 yards on these quail plantations because that's the number one killer, that and fire ants, the number one killer of quail out here.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's so many great things that you can do with an air rifle. So
Absolutely.
I just can't say it enough. I mean, obviously we're talking air rifles, but tell me about your, you're going to be hunting this year. Obviously, Texas got opened up last year.
Yes.
For airgunning. Did you get a chance to go kill deer with an airgun?
I did not. I did not because the guy at the place that I hunt at didn't believe that it was like as powerful enough of a gun to get it done, and he's like, "Why can't you just bring your 308?" I'm like, "I bring a 308 airgun," But I hunt. Some of the places I hunt are just kind of the guys are just kind of old school on wanting to shoot stuff with a powder burner, but I like Eric Henderson. Got some experience. I mean, a couple of the other Texas hunters that are out here got some experience with the air gun, and I sent my 45 Texan, my first Texan, off to Chester Moore to deer hunt with this year, and I'm gonna hunt with another air gun, I think, and I just think it's cool. I mean, I just kind of think it's just neat. And I've killed hogs and exotics and stuff with air guns, and I've known how powerful they are. I don't need to prove anything necessarily with shooting a whitetail with it, but I just love it, man.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've got such a busy schedule. I've been asked, Air Force asked me if I would be interested in coming to Texas and hunting deer. And
Sure.
I absolutely would,
Right.
Of course, this year we're going to try to get as much footage as we can for SHOT Show and other videos and stuff, deer hunting here in Georgia. But I will tell you that, if you have trouble getting a place to hunt, I do have some connections down there. And
cool.
In East Texas, and I could probably get you on some property to hunt. Deer. In fact, I still have a family farm down there that
Oh yeah.
But we might be able to get our hands on some of those deer down there. Of course, you know, they come and go. There's so many ranches around there and farms. You know,
sure,
the deer just cross through our property. But you know, I think it'd be a lot of fun to
yeah,
you know, get with you and I at some point, or even if you flew out here to
Georgia,
yeah,
sure.
you know, and
that'd be fun.
Got you a 3-day hunting pass.
Well, and
we could figure out a way to get a sponsored hunt for you.
That'd be good. That'd be really good. Yeah, pay for Dustin to come fly over there and hunt. But no, I just the one reason I wanted to talk about air guns is, you know, this is the second year in Texas that they're legal, and I just want to broaden people's horizon, that there's more to hunt with than just what we call powder burners, you know, in the air gun world. And I've written about this, I've podcasted about this, I've videoed about this, I've featured every air gun that I own. Just about on video, and I mean, this is the thing that I champion the most, because it's a great way to get kids in the outdoors. It's just a great way to enjoy some pastime, you know, just out there plinking or hunting with air gun. It's cheaper than a 22. I mean, there's just a lot of a little bit of investment, like you talked about. The cost of the PCP air guns, you know, $700 to $1,200, you know, for something like that. But once you pay for it, I mean, you're golden. All you have to do is just pay for air refills for the scuba tank. You know, buy you a scuba tank and get you some air refills. You know. So, but anyway, I've kept you for almost an hour and a half, so I guess we better go. But I just
no, that's fine.
We really did a good show tonight. This is great. So,
man, I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah,
and
sure.
You can you can send people to my YouTube channel, and I mean, Urban Airgunner, and
I'll put it all on the
Instagram,
show notes too. Instagram, you've got
at
Facebook,
Urban Airgunner.
at Urban Airgunner, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. What else? You're
I've got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies.
Yeah, I know you do, that for sure. So Air Force Air Guns, and you can watch some of your stuff over there, and good stuff, man, for sure. So
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the phone, buddy. I really appreciate you so much, Rick.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, Dustin. I mean, I always love having the opportunity to talk about air gun hunting and bragging about my friends at Air Force Air Guns. I mean, they are great people, as well as everybody in the outdoor industry that I've ever met. I mean, there's always going to be a bad apple somewhere.
Sure.
I mean, I know there's tons of stories out there about so-and-so this and so-and-so that. But,
right.
If you surround yourself with smart people and people that have integrity, they actually find a way to make you better.
That's right.
I feel like a better person just hanging around you, and I mean, you always inspire me whenever we talk. And, I drive down the road and I think, man, I gotta really, I don't want to let Dustin down. I gotta keep working, moving forward. So,
Chester said it at SHOT Show this year. I had the James Brown work ethic, so that's a good way to put it. So, ow. Anyway.
Yeah, really great people in the outdoor industry. But again, thank you so much for having me on. And anytime your listeners want to hear it again, man, I always love being on with you. And hopefully, if I ever start a podcast, and I can get you on and interview you.
Yeah, man, that'll be great. That'll be awesome. Well, thanks so much, Rick. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rick Ward, the Urban Airgunner. You can check him out online. Check him out on Facebook. You can friend request him. He's just a heck of a guy to get to know and watch. And I love watching his YouTube channel. Love seeing all the stuff that he's into. He's kind of your cowboy rodeo guy, but also real down to the earth, good Christian man. And just love the heck out of that guy. And I'm just so excited to have the chance to share this with you guys, the Texas Outdoor Nation. And, I just hope you will share the show. Hopefully you will tell a friend about the show. Hopefully you will, have a kid listen to the show. I love to have youth that listen to the show, because this is the future. I mean, podcasting is going to be the way, it's not going away. It's the way things are. And that's why I've been doing it so hardcore for the last 4 years. It's a blessing to be able to do this, turn on this microphone every 2 weeks and knock this out, because this is therapeutic for me. So know that you guys are a big blessing in a lot of ways just for listening. So if you've not done so already, please sign up for our newsletters. They are free. You get a new one every 3 days a week, and that is the Tactical and Practical, or I believe they call it just the Tactical Tuesday or the Tactical and Practical Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, which is now called Wilderness Wednesday, and then the Texas State of the Outdoor Nation, our Thursday newsletter, which encompasses the stories from Tuesday and Wednesday, as well as more stories and kind of a summary of the week and gets you ready for the weekend. So Tuesday through Thursday, we have stories there at fishgame.com. You can sign up for that on the right-hand sidebar. Check out the Hero brand of detergents and cleaning supplies and everything while you're there. They're sponsoring our website this month, and they've got banners all over the place. We've even got a slider banner for them as well. So fun stuff. Just so excited, guys. So excited. Every show is a blast, and just had the chance to do this with you guys. This is great. So again, please tell your friends about the show. Please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes if you've not done so already. And just let's spread the Texas Outdoor Nation. Let's get out there and go hunting and fishing and camping and hiking and all the things that we love to do with our families and with our kids and with even those that don't understand this stuff. You know, if you just introduce them to some nice Axis roast, or a nice venison steak, or some nice fish that you caught, some catfish nuggets or something like that. It's a great way to introduce people to the fruits of our bounty in the outdoors, and that's really what I wanted to leave you guys with this show. We have so much more in this sporting tradition of hunting and fishing and the outdoor lifestyle that we can share with people because of our victories in the outdoors. And our victories don't even really mean coming home with something. It's just great memories and just sharing time in God's creation. So thank you guys so much for watching, reading, and listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.